They say the scar on Mount Tenjo wasn't caused by an earthquake. It wasn't carved by a river over 1,000 years. It was made in a fraction of a second, by a single strike. In 1582, two men met on this peak. One was a force of nature, a man whose rage could shatter shields and break bones like dry twigs. The other was a ghost, a master of silence whose blade moved only when the universe demanded it. This isn't just a story about a fight. It's the legend of what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. And why, 400 years later, the locals say the grass still refuses to grow where the final drop of blood fell. Welcome to the Duel of the Tenjo Gap. To understand the violence that tore that mountain apart, we first have to understand the two souls who brought it there. The Sengoku period, the age of warring states, was a time when life was cheap and honor was often just a pretty word for survival. In this chaos, two schools of thought emerged regarding the way of the sword. On one side, there was the philosophy of Chikara, pure, overwhelming power, the belief that the sword is a hammer and the enemy is a nail. On the other, there was Seishin, spirit, discipline, and flow. The belief that the sword is merely an extension of the will, and the enemy is an illusion. Most warriors spent their lives trying to balance these two. But legend tells us of two men who abandoned balance entirely to become the absolute avatars of these opposing forces. Their collision was inevitable, and as we are about to see, the landscape itself is still traumatized by their meeting. If you enjoy deep dives into history's most epic clashes, make sure to subscribe. We're building a library of legends here, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's meet the beast. His name was Kenji the Breaker. Kenji didn't belong to a lord. He didn't serve a clan. He was a ronin, but not out of shame. He was a masterless samurai because no master could contain him. Standing over 6 feet tall in an era where the average height was much shorter, Kenji was a giant. Historical scrolls describe his fighting style as the avalanche. He didn't use finesse. He used a nodachi, a sword so long and heavy that most men needed 2 hands just to lift it. Kenji swung it with one. He wandered from dojo to dojo, issuing challenges. And every time, the result was the same. Broken wood, broken steel, broken bodies. But there was a problem. Kenji was bored. Power, without resistance, becomes empty. He felt he had reached the pinnacle of human strength, yet he felt no satisfaction. He was a god of war with no war left to fight. One night, in a tavern near Kyoto, a terrified monk told him a story. "You break bodies," the monk said, trembling. "But up on Mount Tenjo, there is a man who breaks intentions. He does not fight. He simply ends it." Kenji laughed. He slammed his cup down, splintering the table. "Does he bleed?" Kenji asked. "I do not know," the monk replied. No one has ever gotten close enough to cut him. That was all Kenji needed. He wasn't looking for a teacher. He was looking for a victim that wouldn't break on the first hit. He began the climb that very night. While Kenji was a storm of noise and violence, the man atop the mountain was the embodiment of silence. His name was Hideo. Hideo was not a giant. He was slight, unassuming, and looked more like a farmer than a warrior. He lived in a ruined shrine, tending to a garden of rocks and moss. Legend says Hideo had once been a general, a man who had seen thousands die. Sickened by the slaughter, he had retreated to the mountain to purify his art. He sought this sword of no sword, the ability to resolve conflict without drawing steel. His discipline was terrifying in its own way. It is said he could stand in a freezing waterfall for hours without shivering. He could watch a hummingbird's wings and count the beats. When Kenji finally crested the ridge, panting, sweating, and radiating aggression, he found Hideo sitting on a flat rock, overlooking the valley. "Old man," Kenji roared. The sound echoed off the canyon walls. "I am Kenji. I have come to take your head and your title." Hideo didn't move. He didn't even open his eyes. "The tea is steeping," Hideo said softly. His voice was like dry leaves skittering on stone. "Sit. The view is beautiful today." This infuriated Kenji. He had expected fear. He had expected a warrior stance. Instead, he got hospitality. "I didn't come for tea," Kenji growled. "Draw your weapon." Hideo finally turned. He looked at the giant, then at the massive sword, then back to the giant's eyes. "You carry a heavy burden," Hideo said. "That sword, it is not an extension of you. You are a slave to its weight." Kenji snapped. He swung. The fight had begun, but it wasn't a fight. It was a hunt. Kenji was the predator, hacking and slashing, turning the serene garden into a wasteland. He cut down ancient trees. He shattered stone lanterns. He was screaming, fueling his muscles with pure adrenaline. "Fight me," Kenji screamed. "Stop running, coward." Hideo was moving with what the Japanese call mushin no mind. He wasn't thinking about dodging. His body was simply being where the sword wasn't. But Hideo knew this couldn't last. Kenji was tireless. His stamina was inhuman. Kenji saw it. The trap. He grinned. He had cornered the old master against the abyss. Nowhere left to run, Kenji panted. He raised the Nodachi high above his head. This was his signature move, the Mountain Splitter. A downward vertical slash with all his body weight behind it. No one had ever blocked it. No one had ever survived it. Hideo took a breath. He didn't look at Kenji. He looked at the space through Kenji. In that moment, the discipline of 40 years condensed into a single point in time. Hideo realized that to stop the avalanche, he could not be a rock. He had to be the lightning that shatters the mountain. The sound was singular, a crack that sounded like the sky tearing open. Kenji stood frozen. His massive blade had missed Hideo, burying itself deep into the cliffside rock, so deep it would never be removed. But Kenji wasn't moving. Hideo slowly sheathed his blade. Click! As the guard hit the sheath, Kenji fell. Kenji the Breaker was dead before his knees hit the ground. Hideo's strike had been so precise, so disciplined, that it bypassed the brute force of the Nodachi entirely. But the legend doesn't end with the death of the giant. If you go to that mountain today, you can find a rock formation split clean in two. Local folklore says that Kenji's final strike carried so much hate, so much raw power, that even when he missed Hideo, the energy passed into the earth and cracked the bedrock. They say that on windy nights, you can hear two sounds in the valley. First, the howling of the wind, sounding like a man screaming in rage. And beneath it, if you listen very closely, a soft, rhythmic sweeping sound. The sound of a garden being tended. The sound of discipline bringing order to chaos. The Duel at Tenjo Gap teaches us something timeless. Raw power, whether it's physical strength, wealth, or talent, is impressive. It turns heads. It breaks things. But power without discipline is just a wildfire. It consumes everything, including the one who wields it. Hideo won not because he was stronger, but because he was complete. He controlled his fear, his ego, and his blade. In your own life, are you swinging the heavy hammer of Kenji, trying to force the world to bend to you? Or are you cultivating the quiet focus of Hideo? Let me know in the comments below. In the modern world, what do you think is the hardest form of discipline to master? If you enjoyed this legend, please hit that like button. It helps us feed the algorithm beast. And click right here to watch our video on the samurai who fought a duel with a wooden oar. I'll see you in the next story.